Good afternoon, everybody. David, I'm hoping that I can inject a bit of optimism into some of those challenges. So I'm here to give a bit of an industry view. I work for Anglian Water, and I'm a bit of a rare beast in that I'm a chartered town planner based in the water industry. So I'm not an engineer, so save the question for pipe sizes for others in the building, although I would try my best. What I'll attempt to do is a bit of an overview of some of our projects quickly over the next 10 minutes. And so that's some of the highlights where the opportunities are around spatial planning and trying to shape the growth. But first of all, before I do that, I'm going to change the first slide on the title of my presentation. So in Anglian Water, we don't use wastewater, we use water recycling infrastructure. We've been doing it for years. Unfortunately, it's not catching on. But for us, if you start to Google the definition of wastewater, it doesn't really sum up how we view it. It doesn't sum up how important it is to everything that we do and how we manage the water cycle. So those of you who perhaps are not so familiar with Anglian Water, this is our patch. We cover up from the Humber Bank right down to Essex, touching on the Thames and Milton Keynes. And the context of where we operate is challenging than a lot of the companies in that we have some really unique stresses on our system, some of the challenges. So we're incredibly flat area, so that means you're moving the water around, incredibly high energy take. The driest region in the UK, 2/3 of the average UK rainfall. When you're trying to capture water is obviously clearly a challenge, and the climate change as well. But on top of this is the scale of the growth. And a lot of the UK is growing, but it's the pace and the type of the growth that's happening. So working in planning, I come across all sorts of terms. So we've got housing infrastructure funds, we've got garden villages, garden towns, new settlements, combined authorities, industrial strategies, all about driving growth in the east. So trying to track this and understand where this is happening is a key part of what we're seeking to do. And indeed, if anyone's got a graphic that can actually show that in one place, that would be great. I've tried and it's a bit too busy. So for us, we're operating in this area and it's some serious challenges. But this filters into the business. And we have got a strategic direction statement that sets out 25 years worth of our planning. So what are the key parts that are going to drive our strategy over the long term? And they're summarised in resilience to risks of drought and flooding, sustainable economic housing growth in the UK fastest growing region, carbon neutral business by 2050, and significant improvement in ecological quality. Now this is important, this last one, because a lot of the environmental drivers are again reducing our sources. So some of our abstractions are reducing by as much as 70% in the future. But that's sort of a company perspective. But we also asked our customers, how do we deal with this? What should we do? And this outcome wheel you can see here is what our customers have told us and how they've summarised what the priorities should be. So this isn't just a typical water industry, putting the pipes in the ground. This is about having an impact on the environment, having that smaller footprint, being resilient, being secure for the future, but having fair charges and fair returns for shareholders. So touching upon spatial planning specifically, which is my main focus. So we are a statutory consultee on local plans and strategic growth plans, but we felt that wasn't really enough. Consulted on a plan that's in a draft stage, doesn't really give you the opportunity to shape that growth framework in a particular area. So we've moved from that kind of consult and respond model to really working directly with authorities to help create policies that are best practice, to really shape the growth and new development in an area. And this is materialised in the last year with a local plans guide, so an Anglian Water perspective. We're not telling local authorities what to do, they're the experts, but we can help them, and we've got the expertise in water that can really support their growth plans. We've also done it for neighbourhood plans to recognise the importance of community engagement as well. The map there is showing one of our objectives, which is about increasing water efficiency in new builds. So since the Code for Sustainable Homes has been removed, there's now an optional higher target or challenging target of 110 litres per person per day, as opposed to standard 125. Now, we have to work with all 65 of our authorities to ensure that that's in local plans. So whereas before, through regional planning or through national standards, in a water-stressed area, you could have that higher standard. We're working with those authorities individually to get that across. As you can see in the green there, a number have adopted and a number in draft plans as well. But this isn't enough. This is working within the rules that we have in front of us. We're also exploring some new approaches which are starting to materialise. So we've done some very initial work on natural capital thinking. So particularly when we're looking at water recycling centres or sewage treatment works, what actually is happening in the catchment? What's the impact on the natural capital as a whole? So start to plan that value, to see where the most sensitive areas are in our region, and then we can target our engagement appropriately. Green water, there's a green water programme, and as David talked about, rainwater harvesting and water reuse is something that has to be part of the solution. So this programme is about looking at site-wide solutions, so not just individual dwellings. How can we work with the development sector to make this a reality? So we're looking for pilots across the east of England to trial this and to show that it can be done. The other part is growth intelligence. It's incredibly frustrating as an infrastructure provider to find data, to find where this growth is happening, and importantly, when. So we've got these long-term plans that we're creating, we've got these aims and ambitions, but how do we do that if we don't know exactly where the developments are happening? So that snapshot there is a new system that we've created called Snappily Grow Site, and this is about importing local authority data directly into our system so it can inform business planning. This allows us to switch to more of an adaptive planning process. So if things change, if sites slow down, or if they happen quicker, we can adjust and put the investment where it needs to be so that we're keeping customers' bills affordable. And one of our long-term strategies that I just wanted to mention was our long-term water recycling plan. So this is the first in the industry. And this map here is not something that someone sneezed on. This is showing all our water recycling catchments, so all our sewage treatment works. And as you can see, some of them are actually quite small. So a lot of them represent villages. Some of the bigger ones will be cities that you'll know, such as Peterborough and Norwich and Milton Keynes. But with this scale of growth, these are really sensitive. Some of the water courses that these discharge into are very sensitive. So understanding about our long-term plans, where that growth's happening, and trying to take a 25-year look forward in a plan that can make it much more transparent. Now, there's a number of benefits that come out of that. Is lifting that sort of business planning into a more transparent environment means that others can get involved. We can start to look at river management, other solutions. So rather than putting in hard infrastructure, so a new part to a sewage treatment works or water recycling centre, we can look at solutions upstream. And that's where my colleague there is walking along one of our newest assets, which is actually a wetland in a place called Goldthorpe in Norfolk. So we've put in a wetland system that actually helps treat the final effluent that comes out of one of our works. And we've got another 17 of these in our business plan going forward because we see that it's the future. Now, in an industry perspective, this is where it's going. There's what's called as wastewater and drainage plans. Is that wastewater again? But that's about pulling the whole industry into creating much more transparency around water recycling or sewage treatment work, long-term planning. There's a consultation at the moment about whether this becomes statutory, so whether companies have to do it. And from my perspective, and I think most of the industry, the answer to that is yes. It needs to establish that need. So sort of to sum up some of our work that we've been doing and some of the challenges. Common language. I, as I say, come from a planning background and I work in the water industry. The combination of those acronyms can be terrible. It can be really challenging. So understanding each other's language is important. Understanding perspectives. A lot of the discussions you'll hear today about development sector doing more regulation, but it's also understanding what's driving the development sector. So for us as a business, we look right across from a glimmer and a landowner's eye right to people living in the home. So what's actually driving those behaviours? What are the financial models that we can start to tap into to change that? And establishing the outcome. So establishing where we've got those shared priorities around catchments, around improving the environment. Thank you.